Hello, and welcome to the delicious recipe here on UPRN. And if you're watching this, it'll be on YouTube, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials, and also on UFO Paranormal Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio. That one's done twice. Also on Facebook, you can find it under my site there, Delicious Recipe, Del Lessie, probably on Lorilei's one there. Say hi, Lorilei. You're joining me
Hi,
there
Lorilei.
today.
Hi,
Hey,
Lorilei.
yeah. And then also on the other streaming platforms that are out there, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iHeart, etc., etc. This one is called Food for Thought, keeping in with my regular food stuff there. And we're going to be looking at a little project called Project Bluebeam. And then I sent you something there last night there, Laura. Do you know what Project Bluebeam is about?
I do. Before I start, I'm going to plug my shows because I'm
Oh,
on
yeah, for
before
sure.
you.
Sorry about that.
So
Yeah.
I am the host here, a host, I should say, not the host, on Monday nights here with the Angel Rock, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And tonight, before this show, we're pre-recording this, I am with my wonderful co-host, David Hansel, with The Thing at the Foot of the Bed. Now, Project Bluebeam. I had been hearing this title, and I told you this last night, so I'll be honest, and I do keep abreast of these topics. I hadn't paid a lot of attention to the title because I had sort of erroneously assumed it had a lot to do with ufology, aliens, a potential, I'll be careful what we're saying being on YouTube, potential future predicted or talked
Mm-hmm.
about alien invasion and things like that, but it is so much more.
Oh, correct. It is here. I'll give you what a little bit. This comes from Rational Wiki, and this is just a quick little outline. This is how they've sort of related, but it goes a little bit more than this and a little bit more in depth. And we'll go into little things and technologies and stuff that are out there too. But here's what Rational Wiki gives you. Okay, so Project Bluebeam is a conspiracy theory which claims that NASA is attempting to implement a new age religion with an antichrist at its head and start a new world order via a technologically simulated second coming. The allegations were presented in 1994 by Quebecois journalist and conspiracy theorist Serge Monast, and later published in his book Project Bluebeam. NASA. Proponents of the theory allege that Monast and other unnamed journalists who both died of heart attacks in 1996 were in fact assassinated, and that the Canadian government kidnapped Monast's daughter in an effort to dissuade him from investigating Project Bluebeam. That's a little side note. The project was apparently supposed to be implemented in 1983, but did not happen. And this goes into this 1984 George Orwell stuff. But then set for implementation in 1995 and then 1996, and it still didn't happen. Finally, Monas thought that Project Bluebeam would be brought into fruition by the year 2000, and well, you can probably guess the rest. So that's their little synopsis of off of Rational Wiki of what they think. But Project Bluebeam, this deals with I don't know if you want to use the word conspiracy theorist, but it is sort of a possibility. And like everything on the delicious recipe, we throw everything in the pot. Leave it up for you to decide. I'll give really quickly the four little parts here. There's 4 steps to this. Step 1 is archaeological discoveries. We'll go into that. Step 2 is a space show. Step 3 is telepathic communication. And step 4 is a 3-part plan, which is an alien invasion, the apocalypse, rapture, and 3 supernatural forces happening. So a lot of different little things, and we can start at the very beginning here of technologies that are out there. Which one would you like to start with there, Laura? MK Ultra type stuff?
Well, we can. And we should mention that even though we're broadcasting through 105.3 in New Orleans, Louisiana, both Del and I are partners in life, and we are in Canada. Canada had a big part to play. And for those of you, I really don't like the term conspiracy theory. I
Mm-hmm.
like the term truth seeking because I think, and I think this is the whole premise of your show. Like you said, you throw everything in the pot, you stir it up, and we see what we come out with at the end, but you leave it up to the viewer to decide. And I know I also say when I'm doing my shows, if anything resonates with you, pick up the breadcrumbs and start doing your own investigation. Become a detective, if you will, because you're the one that's going to find out the truth. Now, the reason why I said all this is MK Ultra has always been put out there by the mainstream that it is a conspiracy theory. It never happened. It's just people having these crazy ideas. And so where do we start? Because there is truth to this. This is not alleged. And depending on where you look and how far you dig and go deep, there's people out there speaking about what they have been through. But I will prepare you. Once you start taking the lid off of Pandora's box, there's no way to put it back on. No way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And before we go into this other part of here, I want to also mention if you people out there that are listening, they want to check out these other two YouTube videos. There's one on YouTube called The Y Files, and they did a little a little thing. I think it was about like 26 minutes long there about Project Bluebeam as well, which is really good because there's a lot of other information that we probably won't get into on here. So that's one good
It's a
thing to
good
go in.
video. It's a
Yeah,
good video. You know why? Because
that's the one I
very
sent you
quickly.
last night to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but it's good. At first, I was disappointed, and then
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't because I liked the way that he wrapped it up without giving things away. That he leaves it up to you guys to decide, and he's not trying to create fear from sharing the information that he does. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I wanted to
Yeah,
add
no,
that.
that's fine. And the other one is episode 48 of the Sean Ryan Show, and he had guest Stephen Greer on there. And this all goes into this whole thing that this is supposed to be the year of disclosure and that. And I guess he has a new documentary coming out in I think June or July, and it does sort of touch on some of these Project Bluebeam things here as well. So actually, we should actually start at the beginning of archaeological discoveries. That's really step one, and
Mhm.
we've seen in recent years, the past decades or whatever, new discoveries of things. We found the Dead Sea Scrolls that were found. We found uh, with a lidar, we found in new parts of civilizations that were never before seen before underneath the desert sands, out in the jungles and stuff like that. Where we've looked at that Columbus wasn't the first one to find North America. There was maybe other civilizations that came over beforehand, and it's just the part of that history may not be the same. Might be the not may not be what was taught to you in school. There might be an alternative to it. And even with the Younger Dryas period there, the Clovis civilization, lots of little different things that are going on there. And we're getting these little breadcrumbs, I think, through our history. What do you think about that there, Laura?
Well, God, we could do a whole show just on this topic. I'm going to tell a quick story. I have a very dear friend who is in the light worker community with myself, and they're always very drawn to the 1940s, that period around World War II and what have you. And they didn't really know why. We even talked about the possibility of maybe a past life. Like, what was this? They discovered an interesting documentary. I think I can name it. Won't cause you any problems, but it's JFK to 911, I'll say. Okay. And you can find it. It's a long documentary. It's about 3.5 hours. That completely changed this person's world. They could not believe what they saw, what they read, what they heard. They were wise enough to take that information, dig further, back things up. Now, the reason why I mention all this is I have another friend, Dan Willis. He's put out a really good video called Why the Secret Space Program Will Always Be Secret. And he gets into, long story short, has gone back to 1900 and is connecting all the dots where he has been able to find where history has been changed. It's been changed, it's been reiterated, it's been twisted. He comes with what kids these days are calling the receipts. And the reason why I think this is so important, and you and I have talked about this off air, Del, is if you think about it, it really only takes about 15 to about 20, 25 years to change history. Think
Yes, two
about it.
generations usually. Yeah.
Yeah. Because by the time, little ones learn what they learn in school today, 20, 25, 30 years from now, their parents and, they're teaching what they've learned and so on and so forth. People don't go back and see what was the real story, what was the real history.
Oh, that's it. That's very important because with the manipulation of books, and even when they did with schools taking stuff out and changing the wording in some old classic books, and that is that only the ones that read the original will know the original. When the new stuff is put in there, it says, well, that never said that. Well, yeah, it did. That's how it used to be. And that's sort of really interesting. And oh geez, even go into the whole manipulation, the Council of Nicaea with what was put into the Bible, and how the people of the Church, the Vatican at that time there, or not the
Do a
Council
whole
of
show on
Nicaea,
it.
yes, went and put what they figured, man, whatever, manipulated that. And I'm not against religion. Again, I've said this many times, they're spiritual, believe in God. And I think when anytime that man interferes with certain things, there's always some sort of alternative thing to there. We got a cat here yelling its head off here. Okay, maybe it doesn't like the New World
Singing
Order.
the song of their people.
But that comes into this part here. This first part there is with these archaeological discoveries being found out and finding new parts of older history and changing the narrative. Not saying that it's all bad or good, but somebody can go and manipulate the findings of what are there and get people thinking this whole other way. This goes into this whole thing about MK Ultra was the way of chemically altering a person's brain to get them thinking a different way. We're going to go into the whole part where actually Tesla talked about this, about the keys of the universe, energy, frequency, and vibration, and manipulation can be done as well at creating earthquakes. He had an earthquake machine that was in his hotel that he had turned on there and started an earthquake, and then he had to shut it off and never turned it on again. But there is so many new technologies that are out there that can do this stuff, create earthquakes. In Dubai, they can create their own weather. HARP, if anybody doesn't know about what HARP is high something audio radio frequencies. It turns on, it puts a lot of energy into the atmosphere where you can actually manipulate jet streams, create hot zones and that, and change sort of weather patterns as the jet streams are moving. And MIT did a big huge not story on this, reports and papers on this about playing with the weather. And that comes into a whole nother topic about man's manipulation of the natural world.
Well, the problem is too, and again, we have quite the interesting discussions at this house here. And when you look back through history, I even got into, as I've been watching a channel called Dark History, and that it basically, history came from his story, not getting into sexism or anything, but just an interesting perspective. But when you go back, like I said, through history and you look at all this, sorry, I got sort of twisted aside there with the history. Can you repeat what you asked me again, just so I don't go off on a tangent here?
I was talking about man's or technology, science, whoever it is, they're dealing with manipulation of the natural resources world. Not natural resources, natural climate.
What we've discovered, or we think anyways in our discussions, is anytime man has gotten involved with nature, thinking that man is God and man can control it, man can do this, man can do that, it's turned into a disaster. And it has. I mean, anybody look up the cane toads in Australia right now. Now, I have not seen the proof of it, but I believe it with the research I've done, that there have been hundreds of thousands of genetically modified mosquitoes released in the Florida Everglades. Now, again, we're not possibly going to see what the repercussions of that are right away.
That was a DARPA project, I believe, there with the small little robotic mosquitoes there. I think there was part with that.
I didn't say robotic. I just said genetically modified, because I believe Mr. Billy G, I'll call him, Mr.
Yeah.
Microsoft, apparently was quite involved. I actually saw a video he put out on his YouTube channel. I believe it's still up there. I
Hmm.
encourage you to take a look at it. It's about 60 seconds long. And yeah, it was kind of scary watching the video he put out there. So again, another theory I have is, you hear people within, you'll call it the independent truthing community, that always, there's people out there that'll say, well, I have a source, or my source has told me, or my source has told me this or that, or
Hmm.
then a lot of, depending on what community, these dates never come to fruition. But to me, what my theory is, and it goes hand in hand with what we're talking about, is, first of all, what makes you so special that you have this secret source? It's usually within the military or something. What people don't realize is we are just the regular population. I believe we will be the last to know. I also believe that anything that we are aware of, that those and that are the powers that be, if you will, they have technology that's 50 to 75 years ahead of what we are aware of.
Well, for sure, and that's this why I told people to go and check out this Dr. Stephen Greer uh, podcast that he was on there. I'll repeat it again. What it was, the Sean Ryan Show, episode 48, and this goes into a part here with alien invasions into step 4 and the apocalypse and supernatural happenings. And I've mentioned this before about Joseph Goebbels and Edward Bernays about propaganda and also changing things, right? If you tell a lie long enough, the lie becomes the truth, right? And that goes into this whole part that you just said there about changing history and changing stuff, that it takes so many generations to bring that lie into fruition, and then to get that lie out, to get it back, will take just as much as it took to put it back in again. So you'll have this sort of this
Yeah,
area of
but Werner
people
von Braun's
believing
talked
that.
about this, the stuff that they're talking about in Project Bluebeam. And again, I mentioned why the secret space program will still always be secret by Dan Willis. He claims that he did, or I shouldn't say he claims, he did do this. There's over 20 people really high up in the military or scientists or what. They thought, just with Dr. Stephen Greer, actually, May 6th, 2002, they all went to the New York Press Club. They came with
Mhm.
all the proof. They swore under oath. They all testified to what they had either witnessed or seen, or what have you. They were asking. They wanted to go to Congress. All the major news people were there. The reason why
Mhm.
I mention this is a woman by the name of Carol. I forget what her last name is. She used to work with Werner von Braun. She talked about exactly some of the stuff that is included in Project Bluebeam,
Mhm.
or Blue Book, because it's Blue Book, right? Sorry, I always want to say Blue Beam. And she was on film. She was showing some of the stuff, right? And Dan's documentary. And he had actually talked about some of the things that we have seen happen that start with 2 F's. I won't say because I know it'll take the trigger out of the rhythm. But the
Mhm.
last one apparently planned was this alien invasion. So it'd be very interesting to see. I will tell you, though, disclosure did not happen that day. Apparently, what happened at the last big newscasts, this the last 15 seconds, newscasters sort of giggling and saying, yeah, and some people think that aliens exist. But at that time, between the 20 plus people that were there, they testified to the existence of 57 different types of extraterrestrials that they had encountered on Earth.
Wow, eh?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So that's just crazy. So out of this whole part here of the way that this scenario seems to run, like they don't have to all run concurrently in order, but some of these things I think have all been tested out. My theory on crop circles, and this is just my theory, is that is a satellite direct energy weapon or something like that, going and testing
I
on
would
the
agree.
ground in crops because they find huge magnetics and different types of energy. So if you're testing something out, seeing if you can do is like writing with a pencil from the sky above down below
Mhm.
and leaving messages, and they get creative doing whatever, right? And then
Mhm.
you'll have whatever UFOologists and these paranormal people come over there with their machinery. Hey, look at this, got magnetics in here and it didn't bend this. But and it's got this energy signature that we haven't seen before. And this is just my opinion and just thought on this, that could be possibly something that could be there.
I have a whole
Because
oracle deck I was looking at that the guy actually created on crop circles. I was just looking
Mhm.
at it, that he did it computer generated, but I
Yeah,
have to agree with you. I'd never
yeah.
really heard that or seen that till just now that you said that, and I have to agree
Mhm.
with you. It makes perfect sense.
Well, there, I've studied into trying to understand how magic tricks work, and dealing with electricity, magnetism, vibration, stuff like that. When you go in there and you see how the bases of things are made up and how they're done, now look about doing this on a larger scale, a global scale, and
So
this comes.
illusions.
Yeah, well, this is what people usually think about Project Bluebeam. They just think about the image, and part of this part is like when this book was written, we didn't have that many satellites up there or a lot of technology that was done in there. But all this technology now exists, holographic images, and part of this Bluebeam thing is that an image will be shot up into the sky or from satellite down into the sky somehow, we don't know, reflective in that in a certain area you'll look up the sky, there'll be Jesus. Over another area it'll be Muhammad. Over another area it'll be Buddha. Over another area it'll be whatever deity that you're thinking of. And this is what this Project Bluebeam, the whole source, is to make a new world order, one religion, and one cash, one monetary system. And we saw this during the pandemic about getting rid of cash and going everything to electronic, paying by card, right? And while you use things like Uber Eats and Skip the Dishes, and we getting delivery food, everybody wants you to prepay either online or tap or
You
do
have to.
something.
If you're going to use those apps, you have to.
Yeah, you need to have a credit card, right? And credit card is
You can use a debit
non-cash
card
payment,
too.
right?
You
But
can use debit.
but it's still plastic, right? It's not cash anymore, right? No,
Mhm.
like we saw here that they got rid of pennies because to produce a penny costs more than what a penny's worth, and change and stuff like that, hassle, and everybody. This whole when you hear the song of the people through media, oh, being putting RFI chips in your arm that you can hook up your whole entire bank account and history into you, and one tap and go, right? All your information is there in one place. How quick and easy it is. You don't have to pay for anything that way, right? Tap and
I
go.
just had a horrible vision of how crime could change like that. Like, think about that, right? Oh,
Hmm.
it's so secure. Nobody could steal your digital ID. $100, you're going to see people running around slice, or because I remember in the Da Vinci Code, I think what the same author written a book about, was it the second one, Angels and Demons, and they had retinal scans. So that didn't
Yeah.
stop the thief. And I'm not going to get into it on the show what they did, but you can use your imagination. But they were able to access the retinal scan, let's put it that way.
Oh,
And it wasn't
that's been a
hacking
that's
it.
been that's been a constant theme there for a lot of science fiction movies and science fantasy movies about copying an eye, imprinting, putting another eye retinal scan on top of that, or taking the eyeball out of the person that they
That's
had.
what I was talking about. They just went real simple. They just took it out and used it and tossed it aside.
And
Mhm.
the dangers about having your money in one place. This has been always a thing, is about keeping the money or keeping something savings squirreled away for a rainy day. Well, now if you go digital currency, and it's there's a big push. Even I think the U.S. government is looking to create their own crypto to be in league or to
Well, we're
take
going to a
over.
digital ID. We are in Canada. And a lot of people
Right.
aren't even aware of this, nor do they care because they think it's
Yeah.
so freaking cool. They have no idea once. And you know what? I think back to that time when I was maybe, much younger in my 20s. I would have thought it was really cool. I would have thought older people like myself were just being foolish, right? Because
Hmm.
society's set up that way for, what, never mind developmentally as teenagers, right? And really young people, we think we're going to live forever, we're invincible, it's cool, it's progressive, and they never look at what the real issues are behind it all.
Oh, for sure. And the scary thing about having this is I think I can't remember who his name is there. Leo something there, ex-lawyer there. He had a show there, and a part about putting all your money on in this digital currency, or on that it's just by card and stuff like that, is that if you do anything against the state, the government, and stuff like that, they can shut your bank account down. And now we saw what happened with the truckers that went to Ottawa. The governments went in, they froze their bank accounts, froze their
People
PayPal.
that donated, if you
Yeah,
gave the truckers $1, even $5,
yeah,
their bank accounts were frozen. Mm-hmm.
right. And that I talked, like I've always said there before, is always keep an extra whatever $20 cash inside your wallet, cash on you, whatever. It says, oh,
Yeah,
nobody
but if they
pays in
don't
cash.
take it, what do you do? Like, you might as well
Yeah.
wipe your butt with it because it's
Well,
worth nothing.
I've been to places where the power's been out or machines have been down, and people, well, I don't have any cash. I can't use the ATM. Well, says needed. Says, well, I got whatever $20 or something like that. That covers this, and that's good enough, right?
Yeah, but if
It's
we're
always sort.
set up to go digital, you might as well wipe your butt with your cash because nobody's going to take it. It's not going to be worth anything. And
Mm-hmm.
people don't think about this, but I'm going to throw it out there quickly. So once there's a digital ID and your cash can be tracked, guys, if you, and I know you think this is crazy, but let's take a look at China, okay?
Social
And
credit score, yeah.
that I have seen, I swear to you, I have seen a mock-up from our country only of what the score will be. So you think about this now, where we've been over the last 3 years, and they still couldn't track who had what, right? They tried their best and there were ways to do it. Once they've got you in a digital system,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys don't, like, you guys may think this is crazy, but anybody that's on a pension, anybody with a paycheck, anything with that, and if it's decided, what if it's decided you're only allowed to have so much money? It doesn't matter what.
Yeah.
And you don't do what you've been told to do, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
they've decided you had too many hamburgers this week, or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. And people think this is where they go with the conspiracy theory, not realizing that, guys, we got to look at this. And I've been saying there's a lot more of us. All we got to do is stand up and say, no, not happening.
Yeah. Well, that goes into the whole part about this Agenda 2030 and the Great Reset book there by
Yeah, but it's
Klaus
all
Schwab.
twisted together. There's Project
Oh yeah,
Bluebeam, and
oh yeah,
mhm.
for sure. Well, this is the part about why this Project Bluebeam stuff that Serge Monast had written about back in the '80s is that he saw this is the way that dark government actors globally, a collection, whether it's through international banks. If you want to go into the saying that it's Rockefellers and stuff like that, hey, well, it could be. We don't really know who. Well, we sort of do know a little bit about who some of these players are. Usually they're anything that's black budget that you don't know who they are, that are doing secret stuff. Like anything that we talked about this before, is that anything that you can think about with the dealing with human manipulation, mutilation, adding technology, silicone to people, twinning, cloning, and stuff like that. Everything that was sort of outlawed and looked down upon, or whatever is X'd out by the UN, companies are doing this. They're doing it all the time. That's why this CRISPR technology was so dangerous that came into there, because this was actually cutting out parts of DNA strands and encoding and putting in a new piece in there that doesn't get removed. Once you cut something else and replace it, you can't put the original back in again. You can cut off your finger and put in somebody else's finger. You can't put your own finger back on again. You have something else that's there. And that's why that I talked about this in the early 2020 about this and the dangers of CRISPR technology. And there's a lot of people that have talked about this. That one doctor out of China talked about this when he cloned the twin girls and cut their DNA to make them HIV resilient, or resistant, I mean. And that was a big no-no about cloning. That's against UN policy. That's a rule. And I'm not. Don't go too far into the off the
Okay,
off
but
the
let me
board.
throw one thing out there really quick. I
Yeah.
saw this is going around social media, that it's a place for people, and it always starts out with good intentions. But remember, people, as much as there's good intentions, we live in a planet where you have duality, whether you like it or not. We do hot and
Mm-hmm.
cold, light and dark, what have you. this is a place where you can go and say you're infertile or you're not able to have a baby on your own naturally, whatever. They have artificial wombs. We're talking like thousands in a room, and they're promoting it. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm telling you. An app that you can watch your baby grow. You can see it, and it feeds it everything you want, and you can program it the way you want. And I watch this, and this is about 10-minute infomercial. I just about died. I mean, I worked in maternal newborn. I have carried a child. I can't even begin to imagine, first of all, what went into that. Who thought of this? And I can't even imagine people that want a child. Okay. And I've been there. I know what infertility is about. And the thing is, you will do anything because it's the one thing that's so difficult. They liken it to the amount of stress of somebody going through a terminal disease diagnosis because you have no control. So my whole point is they're trying to sell it on all the positive points, but what about all the other stuff? Like, you don't know what they're putting in your baby. At least if you're carrying a baby, you know what you're eating and what. Like, there's so many implications. Anyways, I don't mean to get off track here, but that's just one thing that they're putting out there.
Yeah, that's what I said. That anything that you could possibly think about that would be crazy and weird and the people didn't believe MK Ultra was a real thing about governments experimenting
Lots of people that don't. Lots of people that still don't.
That the government manipulated and did things, tested on their own army people. The Tuskegee Airmen gave them all syphilis to see what the reaction of that would be. Agent Orange on their own soldiers that are out in Vietnam to see how the reaction and what the after effects would be. Not to mention what Mengele did there with the experiments and war crimes and that, but also I've said this before that by those experiments also that did advance medicine a little bit, but was the payoff not worth the payoff doing that to another human being though. But it's just really, really crazy things about how far certain people will go that not everybody has the same standards. I put it that way there. But also with this, with these manipulations that we talked about, weather, earthquakes, finding new discoveries, and that lights in the sky. We've talked about this UFO thing that's supposed to be this year of disclosure. That there was supposed to be about. Well, you talked there a bit on that there could be other alien races out there, interdimensionally or space traveled and stuff like that. And these are secrets that government has held back, whether through black programs or off programs there, and how probably technology is way further ahead through these other systems than what is given to the public. And there's so much compartmentalization, I guess, right, that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Correct there, Lori?
Well, I might agree with you loosely, but I do think that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing in back rooms in secret, because people tend to think there's a choice. Like we have the blue party, we have the red party, we have this, we have that. Yet when you really start to dig and you look at it, and whether maybe willingly, knowingly or not, I'm going to say probably willingly and knowingly, there is no division. I think that it doesn't matter what, like, okay, let's put it this way quickly. I've met many people. I'm just going to speak from a Canadian perspective with the Mr. Pink Pants, who we have in power. We'll call him that, or Fancy Socks as he's known. And there's been another couple proponents out there that people are just gravitating to. These people are the saviors, whatever. And I've been saying all along, take a good look, take a good look. And thankfully, some of the people that are awake are taking a good look. I can't tell you the amount of messages that have messaged me and said, oh my God, you were right. I don't want to be right. I don't need to be right. It's just wake up and take a look, guys. Like, so no, I can't always say the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. They may, let's put the lower players may not know what's going on, but always the head honchos, I think they do know. I think they're the same fingers on the same hand.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I have sort of a bit of there. I think people in government don't know what the military is doing, and that's always been
okay. That part,
there.
If that's where you're going, yes, I will agree with you. Yes, I will agree with you.
and a lot of people don't know connections, global connections between other players, whether it's multinational corporations or banks or old family allegiance and ties and stuff like that, old money and stuff like that.
There I will disagree with you.
Billions of dollars, but that's for whatever. That's for anyone to make up their own mind about that. But getting into this part with energy, frequency, vibration, manipulation, and like I said before, where MK Ultra dealt with with chemicals, chemically moving the mind and through duress and stress and stuff like that, we're finding now is that with energy, UHF, VLF, LF frequencies can affect the human body. There's a thing called the brown noise, which is a low frequency, which police have been using to in riot situations to a low frequency, which causes you to almost empty your bowels or whatever.
Well,
But
look
also,
what happened in Australia with one of the protests there, and there were
yeah,
hundreds of thousands of people that will testify. They had no idea what was being beamed at them. They all
hmm
suffered basically radiation type burns all over
yep,
it, and that's not a conspiracy. You can look that up; you'll find it. It happened.
yep.
Mhm.
That's good there, yeah, because there was another one that happened in Italy, and whether it was U.S. Navy that was out there testing Doppler radar. And Doppler radar, if people know that, everybody hears about it. Oh, it predicts or shows the weather patterns and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But the frequency and the amplitude and the power can be turned up, and you can actually go and fry birds. You can push stuff, and because it is an energy, you're sending something out and bounces back and you receive it, right? It's just like how your cell phone works. You send out a signal and you receive a signal.
I
But
think
now,
that's the most terrifying, Del, is that we can't see it. I think you were the one that's mentioned it many times
Mhm.
about the analogy. I don't know if it was a meme or what, but say 100 plus years ago, you could see all the wires connecting
oh, yeah,
people.
it's a picture of New York. If anybody wants to look that
Mhm,
up, I think it's New York in 1918, and
mhm.
downtown New York, and all the power
Cables.
cables and telephone cables that were strung across you could bear it. It was like a spaghetti work of cables.
Yeah.
Now put that today, right? And you know how slow the phone was. You could only be on one person on one line at a time, and that
We had
now you have
operators. Mhm,
yeah, exactly,
mhm.
connecting the line. Now put it to whatever 2 million people all on cell phones, all sending and receiving signals,
Yeah, but the
plus your key,
wires have disappeared.
right,
But imagine the soup of what we're living in because we can't see it, so we don't
right.
believe it, right?
The
Mhm,
wires that disappeared where you see there, but now the soup has grown exponentially in the amount of invisible wires that are there.
mhm.
Like I say, it says say 2 million people downtown of a city, all pretty much using cell phones, wireless internet in the businesses,
Headphones.
headphones, yeah, your TV, your computer, anything that's Wi-Fi, anything that's picking up a signal. Yeah, your headphones. Listen to music as you're talking on your phone and looking up something. Signals going everywhere, and this is a part that they go. This goes into this part of step 3 of telepathic communication, radio wave communication, microwave, 5G. We don't know what this is actually going to do and how it affects. I think there's already been studies through government contracted businesses on how this affects the human mind, and this is part of this conspiracy part in the book. Step 3 is putting visual holograms or suggestive messages or communication in the brain. So you've already had this raptures happen, right? God has come
Mhm.
back. The Antichrist is here. It's the end of times. And now somebody is talking to you. And I think that that can get into a huge thing. I think there was a part there that some of the CIA or I think it was CIA or NSA was doing this, sending signals into people people's homes, right, to get them to go crazy, right, thinking that they see paranormal ghosts or that there's UFOs or there's a UFO going there, beaming huge amounts of signals into their home.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard about that stuff there, Laura?
Oh my God, have I? When I was watching that, what was the gentleman's name with the little fish that you sent me? It was his channel, the
Oh,
Y?
the Y-Files, yeah.
The
Hecklefish,
Y.
yeah.
No, but the thing is, you know what I kept thinking when he was talking, and he did talk about some of the stuff. And he's
Mm-hmm.
kind of really intelligently done with the fact that anything that's a little iffy, he has the fish say that wears a tinfoil hat on his fishbowl. You'll know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about when you watch it. It's a cute channel and it's well
Mm-hmm.
done. But then I started thinking about how many of you out there that hear this have had your meters to your home changed to a smart meter. That's what I kept thinking about. Like, people go, that can't happen. It'll never happen. Really? And we had a conversation with somebody over in England who had called to get the smart meter put on their home because it was being done in their area. Had no idea about smart meters. They were open to the conversation, just happened to come up. And I remember talking to them. I just sent them a few links on smart meters. They called immediately after they watched it and said, no way, no how. But the thing is, people don't realize, because the way it's marketed with this stuff, it's fast, it's convenient, it's easy. It's all I keep thinking is, you can't tell me that anybody is in that much of a hurry, rather than using your card, which you could just tap right now, even if you have to, than whipping your hand out. Well, everything's in one place. I don't have to carry a wallet. But what people don't think about, like, even look back on this with Edward Snowden, with people like that have come out and told you what happens to your cell phone calls, happens to your text, what happened. There's already and people say, well, I don't care if people know about me. Yeah, you don't care now. But when, say, you're only allowed so many credits per month and you want to go spend your money the way you want to spend it, and you're told, no, you can't, or you have to eat only certain foods. And this isn't even covered in Project Looping. We'll have to do a show sometime on that. Start looking at all the food processing places, what's happened, guys. It's concerning.
Yeah.
Very concerning.
Well, yeah. Well, I think I talked about this with Rachel there the other day, is that they've made a virtual you. Everybody on this planet, there is a virtual you. Everything that you've done, said, who you're talking to, there is a part of a program that's over there, and that's how things will be presented towards you, and that's how tracking you. They know what your next move is going to be, because all this is put into the algorithm about you. And I forgot to mention, well, I went off that other tangent. You said about the weapons that are in Australia. There was one in Italy where there was I think it was in northern Italy. The homes in there of several people, their electric, their fridges, their stoves, their TVs were all catching fire in their places. People were ending up with huge amounts of headaches, and there was a lot of sickness happening, and a lot of areas were there. And it was found out to this area that the U.S. Navy was doing tests. Yeah, I think it was the Aegean Sea. I think that's around Italy or something like that, with high EMP pulses and high frequencies and stuff like that. And it was over bleeding over into this town in Italy and causing this, you would think, phenomenal destruction. And this was going on for quite a while. And they brought in Catholic priests, Vatican priests and stuff like that, thinking that this was demonic stuff, because this had never happened, and no one ever seen something like this before, right? And they're wondering why you're sitting there at your house and all of a sudden your TV catches on fire, and you're thinking, oh, satanic, right? Then you see how people easily get manipulated. We can even briefly talk about the manipulation that happened during this pandemic, and how people just blindly went and just listened to what the people that reelected were saying, and they basically threw common sense out the window, and they never even, and it was surprising. Like we've harped on this so many times about how easily people can be manipulated and easily done. Now think about doing this, where you have Jesus Christ shows up in the sky and says, one religion, and you wonder where all the sheeple will fall to the ground and go, oh my God, this is something
You
out
know
there.
what? Had we not gone through the last 3 years, I would have thought, yeah, there'll be some people that'll fall for that. But when I have just been utterly amazed. Fear is quite a it's actually scary in itself and quite
Yeah.
puzzling with what it can do to the human psyche. And I didn't think that meant, because to me, knowledge is empowering. Once we understand why something happens or where it's coming from, or, if something makes sense, or like I said, you start to follow the breadcrumbs and you go, something's not quite right about this. I mean, we have a reason why there's a saying in English, trust your gut, follow
Mm-hmm.
it, look at it. But my whole point is, I wouldn't have believed that people would fall for this, but I can tell you right now, I agree 100%. Like, and they want this chaos and fear, and people are going to be running around. It's end time, especially people that are very
Mm-hmm.
fanatically religious. And again, not knocking religion, but when it starts to play out like it's been put in the book, the Bible, can you
Mm-hmm.
imagine? Like, people are just going to be going absolutely insane. Not everybody,
Yeah.
but the masses will. Mhm.
Well, I look at it this way: is that well, I grew up in whatever with religion. There, United Church Pentecostal Church, baptized in many things there, aka through my mom's belief system, and and all the way through everything, there was always a time about the end times, the rapture is coming. It was always at this point. 1984 was one. Y2K was a big one that
Mhm.
all the computers were going to shut down because we've handcuffed ourselves to this technology for a lot of people, and a lot of the
Mhm.
young people that have grown up, they've known nothing before this. And that's, we've talked about this many times about learning skilled trades, learning how to do things without the assistance of technology, and how important that is. Growing food yourself, getting away from the chemical Monsanto bank of food manipulation and dyes and red dye number 9 and monosudoglutamate, whatever, how many more alphabet letters you can put into the chemical makeup of fake banana bread. There's
Yeah,
so
but what
many.
about those videos? Have you seen them where parents, like say around our age, maybe a bit
Yeah.
younger, probably around our age, will have their older teenagers on video, and they'll hand them a rotary dial phone, and they'll
Hmm.
hand them like a Walkman or tape recorder or whatever, and say, "Show me how this works."
Hmm.
It's very comical, but it's not comical because they haven't got a clue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
That wasn't that long ago, people. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like it's 100-year-old technology. It's what I like, really, that's scary.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
a part about this last final step there was there. We'll go on. There was three parts of this: alien invasion, the rapture, apocalypse, and three supernatural forces happening. Well, you see what happened there with this Chinese spy satellite balloon that had drifted across the U.S. And it was funny how the story unfolded, and it was funny with the other balloons that they also shot down. One was up in Yukon, Canada, and they said they didn't know anything about this. But the part was is that the other balloons that were down were federal U.S. federally funded weather programs to to track and do weather research. They knew about it. These were federal programs. But do you see how the way that the news media went? And this was a big thing there when I think it was Bill Clinton, when he dissolved a part of independent news things, and basically that's when the conglomeration of the five main news media systems sort of now, or the mainstream part of it there, is that there is no sort of other side, the pro and con to the debate, the argument anymore. And why people get sort of really mixed up on this mainstream media that's there, where you only hear one talking point anymore, and it's whatever the talking point that the government or the CIA or whatever, that's in the States there, or in Canada, our national news is government funded. So anybody that's independent news is basically considered in Canada not a journalist, not a news person. And I say, to my point on this, and if you can agree or not, you don't need to go to university to be a journalist to do research.
I agree.
Right,
Yeah,
Laura?
100%. No, you don't need to. And the thing
Or
is,
use
like
or use common sense.
well, I said that I think in the last 3 years, with everything else that we had happen, I agree with you. We had the death of logic and common sense.
Mhm.
And I agree with you with the fact that, it's been drilled into people's heads that, in a way, we thought the caste system of old, where, we had people of certain levels of financial significance in society's eyes. It's no different. Like, people think, I can't tell, I went to university. I can tell you how many people think that, well, we went to university. We're not like those people. And I have to agree with you, since being with you for how many years now, Del, that means nothing. All it means is that you can sit and you can have somebody dictate to you and tell you what you're going to learn and how you're going to learn. But when you look at some of the most successful people in the world, a lot of them didn't go to university,
Or
and
dropped out. Yeah.
or dropped out. And the other thing I've always said, I've never understood why people think they need a leader. Because again, I think there comes with that some maturation in other areas. But what I'm saying, where I'm going with this is, we all have a brain. We can all think. Say there was a whole group, 100 people, crashed on a desert island somewhere. Within 6 months, not even, probably the first couple days, people will be scared. They won't know what's going on, whatever. They'll be looking for somebody to take a leadership role. And
Oh, for
somebody will
sure.
stand up, somebody will take the leadership role. And what do
Hmm.
people do? They just follow. They just go, they just follow. Or there'll be a few rebels that'll say, I'm not doing that. Are you kidding? And then you may get a subsection, but somebody will lead that group. And where I go with the
Hmm.
maturation is, okay, so maybe you don't agree. You have an adult discussion about things. You hear each other out. Maybe there'll be points that you agree to disagree on. But we can all think for ourselves. We don't need to have someone telling us what to do. And that's
Hmm.
the problem. It
Well,
never changes.
that's the first season of the TV show Lost, is how there's people that don't want to make decisions. You always have
Never
people that
wanted
are
to.
out there, right? They
Mhm.
don't want to take responsibility of that, and so they always look for someone says, "Hey, well, you make the decision," because there is a lot of people out there that cannot make decisions on their own
I agree.
because that they're and they just accept whatever is there, whether and they can complain behind closed doors or complain whatever all they want about bad decisions, but they never want to take that lead role. Okay, well, we got a couple minutes here left. I hope, hopefully, for people that this isn't anything that hey to be scared about, but basically it's to
Mhm.
give information out there. So when you see things in mainstream media, you see things happening in your area, wherever you are around this world, coming through
Mhm.
the ether, that you take a second look at things and go and don't react to following whatever's being out there and go, hey, well, this sort of sounds a little familiar to something like this. Oh, I've heard of this EMP. I've heard about MK Ultra. I've heard about VLF manipulation. I heard about subliminal messaging. I've heard about these things, and maybe you don't react as quickly, and you go, maybe I should step back a second and do a little bit more research and find out what exactly is going on there. Because we both say this: research is key. Do your own research, learn as much
Mhm.
as you can, learn both sides of the story, and get it from many sources, not just one source. Would you say that true there, Laura?
Absolutely agree 100%. And believe me, we're losing the art of books. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of good information in books. And I just want to add to that, that if you're seeing stuff, some of the stuff we've talked about might look a little different, might sound a little different, might appear a little bit different, but you got to ask yourself, why is this happening? Again, wherever I
Mm-hmm.
heard this, like you said, and we're not the only ones talking about this. Lots of people are. We didn't
Yep.
get deep into a lot of these topics. Each one of those topics we could have done a whole 3 shows on. But even just hearing those names, start taking a look. Well, what does that mean? What does MK Ultra
Yep.
mean? What, I've heard this thrown around. What does it mean? What does it mean? What is, or like Project Libby?
Yep.
I thought it only had to do with UFOs and stuff, because there's so many other things to look at. I'd never dug in deep. Now I know.
30 seconds. 30 seconds, Laura. Where can they find you?
Angel Rock and the thing at the foot of the bed, and facebook.com/the Angel Rock, and get a hold of me on there.
Great. This was the show. Food for thought. The delicious recipe here on UPRN. I want to thank again there my other half there, Lorilei, pop in there for joining me on
Thanks
this.
for having me.
There's a lot more, and then we'll be going into this topic a little bit more, and we'll see how things are.
And join me tonight before here with David. We're going to be doing the thing at the foot of the bed, the healing power of animals, especially cats, and the mysteriousness of them.
Okay, we'll see y'all later. Thanks for tuning in.